Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're grabbing our detective hats and opening up a cosmic cold case, the truly mysterious origin of our moon. I mean, for all of human history, we've stared up at it, but how it actually got there, well, that's one of the most stubborn puzzles in all of science. And let's just start with this bombshell from a longtime NASA scientist, Dr. Robert Brett. When a leading expert basically says it's easier to explain why the moon shouldn't exist than why it does, you know you've got a real mystery on your hands. This just perfectly frames the puzzle we're about to dive into. So, with that level of doubt from the experts, where do we even begin? What are the leading theories? Who are the prime suspects in our detective story? We need to line them up, check their alibis, and see how they stack up against the evidence. Okay, so let's start by looking at the usual suspects. These are the three classic theories that have been the main contenders in science for decades. You'll find these in most textbooks, but as we're about to see, each one has some serious holes in its story. Suspect number one is the fission theory. The idea here is that a very young, very hot, and very rapidly spinning Earth literally flung a piece of itself out into space, and that piece became the moon. Kind of like a potter's wheel spinning so fast that a blob of clay just flies off into orbit. Then we've got the chapter theory. This one suggests the moon was basically an interstellar traveler. A rogue body just wandering through the cosmos, minding its own business. It got a little too close to Earth, and our planet's gravity just snagged it. A complete chance encounter. And finally, we have the current heavyweight champion, the giant impact hypothesis. Right now, this is the most widely accepted theory. It says that a protoplanet about the size of Mars, they even gave it a name, Theia, slammed into the early Earth. This incredible cataclysmic collision threw a massive cloud of vaporized rock into orbit, which eventually clumped together to form our moon. But here's the twist in the case. As popular as that giant impact theory is, it doesn't perfectly explain all the evidence. For instance, most simulations show the moon should be made mostly of material from that other planet, Theia. But the rock samples we have, they're chemically almost identical to Earth. These little inconsistencies, they mean the case file is still wide open. And you know what happens when the main suspects all have shaky alibis? That's when detectives start looking at the more unusual leads. And believe me, this is where our cosmic investigation gets really strange, moving from the scientific mainstream right to the speculative fringe. So let's start with a genuinely bizarre observation from 1969. The Apollo 12 crew jettisoned their lunar module, sending it crashing right into the moon's surface. And the seismic equipment they left behind? It picked up that the moon vibrated, or, as it was reported, rang like a bell, for nearly an hour. This was totally unexpected, and it just sparked a whole wave of wild speculation. This strange ringing led some people, including, get this, 2 members of the Soviet Academy of Sciences, to propose a truly radical idea: the spaceship moon, or hollow moon theory. They basically argued that the only way to explain that prolonged ringing was if the moon was a hollow artificial structure. Yeah. And proponents of this wild theory point to a key piece of evidence: the moon's density. As you can see, it's way lower than Earth's. Now, mainstream science says that's because the moon just doesn't have a big, dense iron core like ours. But the hollow moon theorists, they say no. It's because the moon is largely empty, like a giant metallic shell just covered in rock. Okay, so let's put the aliens aside for a moment. What if we're not looking for just one culprit? What if the whole crime scene is way more complex than we ever imagined? A recent paper reopens the case, not with spaceships, but with a startling new theory that takes another look at the whole idea of collisions. This new line of inquiry from a researcher named Winnebust completely flips the giant impact theory on its head. It suggests there wasn't one single, violent collision that created the moon. Instead, it proposes that Earth and the moon formed separately and have since been involved in a whole series of cosmic fender benders over billions of years. So how in the world do you test an idea like that? Well, the researcher put together a kind of modern detective's toolkit. Instead of dusting for fingerprints, they're looking for geological clues, matching scars on both worlds, strange gravity anomalies, and chemical imprints that could prove these ancient cosmic bumps actually happened. All right, I know this map looks a little complicated, but stick with me, because this is cool. This is a gravity map. It shows us what's hiding under the moon's surface. See those bright red areas? Scientists call them mascons, short for mass concentrations. You can think of them as dense, heavy bruises deep under the crust, left over from giant impacts. In our detective story, these are the bullet holes. And here it is. This is the aha moment of this new theory. On the left, you've got the moon's gravity map, all its wounds. The researchers' incredible claim is that if you place the moon over an ancient map of Earth, these wounds, these mascons, line up perfectly with huge geological scars on our own planet. Like that massive red spot on the moon. They propose it was made by the very same impact that carved out Earth's Arctic. So, after looking at the classic suspects, the really wild theories, and now this radical new report, where does our investigation stand? Let's pull all this evidence together and see what it all means for our cosmic cold case. You know, what makes this new report so compelling is just how specific it is. It isn't some vague idea. It's a proposed timeline of the crimes. It connects a major impact way back 4.1 billion years ago, when Earth was basically a molten hellscape, to the creation of both the moon's Aitken Basin and Earth's Arctic. Then it links another hit to the Canadian Shield, and even a final collision just 450 million years ago that scarred Antarctica. It's a bold, detailed accusation with dates and locations. So where does that leave us? Well, we have our prime suspect, the giant impact. We have the fringe conspiracy theories about alien spaceships. And now we have a new investigator with a completely different story. A long, violent history of cosmic collisions. The jury is definitely still out on this one. The truth is still out there, locked away in the lunar rock. And as new missions like Artemis get ready to send humans back to the moon, they'll be carrying a whole new generation of scientific tools. They won't just be exploring, they'll be gathering new evidence, listening for fresh clues in this ancient, ancient mystery. The investigation is ongoing. The moon just hangs there in our sky, a silent witness to 4.5 billion years of history. And it leaves us with one final provocative thought. What other secrets, what other stories is our silent companion still waiting to tell us?